fish on right there. Ooh, he's tearing off line. Man, I saw the marks right there and got the fish. They were 30 feet down. My minnow was at 30 feet. And I was curious to see if one of them was going to go. And the answer to that is yes. Wow. Now not having that second rod in the water is really going to pay some dividends because I don't have to worry about it. Man, oh man. I don't know how big this one is, but you can see that rod, guys. Rod is absolutely buried. And he tore off, I don't know, several feet of line on the strike there. 44 feet of water here. I'm just going to keep easing out towards more open water. Fish is still over 100 feet away after that big run. He is staying down. He's bulldogging. He is bulldogging me. Which is fine. I am content to let him wear himself out down there. "85 feet back. Man, these fish fight so hard. It's about a toss-up between these or the trout at Eagle Lake for which ones are the fighting champions. But these fish fight hard. Just keeping control of the kayak. I'm trying to keep him on that port side. Keep him from going crazy. I'm out here deep enough now where I don't have any concerns about the downrigger hanging the bottom. I still have to watch that cable though. And I have a boat coming here on the starboard side, but I think I know that guy. He was talking to me, so I think he'll give me all the room I need. Fish is starting to come my way. He's 50 feet now. He's gonna go crazy when he sees the kayak. He's kind of been resting. He's just kind of swimming along with us at this point. And I'm just not doing anything to dissuade him from doing that. I'm just keeping the reel in motion. Sometimes the harder you fight them, the harder they fight you. Okay, he's getting a little more active now. Just let him do his thing. I'm moving at like 0.8. I'm not moving very fast at all. Just fast enough to keep forward momentum. A lot of head shaking now. Oh! Notice, as long as the line stays tight, when he starts head shaking, I stop reeling. I'm not trying to provoke him. He's got a lot of fight left in him. When he's head shaking, I don't want to provoke him by cranking hard on him. Got a lot of power. A lot of power. Oh, I see him down there. He's got a few copepods on him. Okay. Get the net ready here. Oh, he's hooked a little funny. Kind of wrapped himself. What a beautiful rainbow. Oh, that's a heavy fish. He's not as long as the others, but he is heavy. Whew. That may be the heaviest one of the day. That's a heavy fish. Look at that big rainbow, guys. It's another just phenomenal fish. That is just dandy. I got 3. I'll probably keep 1 more, so I still have room in my limit to do some catch and release. I don't want to be done super early if I'm lucky enough to catch a few more. So we shall see. But that is just an awesome fish. That's what you come to Lake Elminor for. This lake is absolutely full of these guys, and at times they can be ridiculously frustrating to catch. But this morning they're feeding on the pond smelt. I got a great pond smelt imitation, and hey, results speak for themselves. Getting some nice. Howdy folks, Kel Kellogg here. That big beautiful rainbow you saw me catch in the beginning of this video, well, that fish came out of Lake Elminor last October, and it came on a Trout Trix minnow. Let me give you a little background. So Lake Elmanor, full of big trout, big rainbows, big browns. It's also full of forage, and it makes the fish very difficult to catch. There are pond smelt, there are aquatic insects galore, and there's a bunch of crawfish. So those fish are never more than a few feet away from some sort of forage item, and it gives them the opportunity to be very, very fickle. Well, I pedaled out in my kayak. I was out near the dam. I started going over some humps. I was just looking around on structure, looking for fish. I marked some big arches that I figured were rainbow trout, and I also marked some scattered bait fish around them, which I knew, I know Elmanor is a pond smelt lake, so I knew they were small smelt, and I figured that's what the rainbows were looking to feed on. So I rigged up with the Trout Trix minnow, spooled it down to about 30 feet on the downrigger, trolled it in, around, and over the top of those hard marks I was seeing. It looks like a minnow, it moves like a minnow. When those fish grabbed it, it felt like a minnow, and it was fish on. I had an epic day. I caught several big rainbows over 3 pounds, big slab-sided, hard-fighting, beautiful fish. I kept 4 for the table. I let the rest go. Just a super, super memorable day. About 10 days ago, I did a video about how to rig Trout Trix worms, and that video has generated a bunch of questions about how to rig Trout Trix minnows. And the rigging is very similar. So today we're going to talk about how to rig them for standard fishing, how to rig them with dodgers, and how to rig them with flashers. Let's get started. I'm going to take this minnow off of here. Whoa, got it tangled already. Let me flip this over and pull a little slack here so I can set this rod down, and I will take you through the rigging from top to bottom here. I'll lean this right there like that. That's about perfect. Let me take the minnow off the hook so I can show you the whole deal here. Let me take this off here and we'll set this aside. I don't want it to end up inside the dog. There we are. Got a new minnow here. We'll get to that in a second. So here's my standard kind of rigging. Main line of the rod, whether I'm using my downrigger rod or my lead core rod, whatever. Main line goes through a bead. That keeps me from reeling this trolling swivel into the eye of the rod. So I got a bead, I have a trolling swivel, and now here is my Trout Trix worm / Trout Trix minnow leader. 8 to 10 pound test fluorocarbon, overhand loop knot up top. I have anywhere from 30 to 40 inches of leader material, usually 40 inches. This one here I was using up at Bucks Lake, and it looks like it's about 36 inches to me. So down here on the business end, we have a number 4 Mustad bronze ring eye hook, also called a Sprout hook. Now, if you pick up a package of my soft plastics, a kit of my soft plastics, you're going to get a rigging kit that has all this hardware in it. Also, I've got a massive order of soft plastics coming in. You're going to be able to order these rigging kits independently if you can't find this stuff on your own. You're also going to be able to order your favorite colors, not in kits, in bulk. So that makes sense. But anyway, if you buy a kit of my Trout Trix minnows or my Trout Trix worms, you're going to have a rigging kit included, and it's going to have several of these number 4 ring eye Sprout Mustad hooks in there. So you're going to tie that on the end of the leader using a Palomar knot. And here's the rest of the rigging gear. Let me just get it all going in the same direction here. You are going to have an action disc, some bobber stops, and a bead. Okay, so once you tie, what I would do is the first thing I put on is I put on 2 bobber stops, put on the bead, and then tie on the hook. I use 2 bobber stops. I used to use 1, but now I use 2 bobber stops because the bobber stops are used to regulate how far down the line the action disc can go. If you use 1, it can slide around with water pressure, like when you're reeling in or if you speed up or whatever. But the 2 of them really resist movement. They kind of bind against each other. So I just like 2 better than 1. So coming up from the hook attached with the Palomar, then a bead, 2 bobber stops, and your action disc. And notice the stem on the action disc is pointed towards the hook. It's pointed towards the bait. Okay, just remember to do that. If you rig it the other way, it won't have any action. It'll just go through the water and it won't impart any action to the bait. The bead has no function, that little bead there, except to keep those two bobber stops from sliding inside the bait when you're fighting the fish. If they get inside the bait, they're really, really hard to get out. So I find that putting that little bead there prevents them from getting inside the bait, prevents headaches, just makes everything easier. So let's go ahead and put a minnow on this hook. Now, if you watch the worm rigging video, there are several different hooking options, but when I'm using the minnows, I hook them all the same. I just use one hooking method. If you look at the minnow, the back is flat and he has a little bit of a belly. I take the hook in my right hand, I'm right-handed, I grab the eye. I take the minnow in my left hand, I grab him by the belly side. I take that hook point and I insert it right there into the nose of the minnow. It's like so. Now I start working the minnow down or up the hook, or working the hook into the minnow, however you want to look at it. I just try to keep that hook point in the center of the minnow, and I'm going to ultimately pop that hook point out of the minnow's back. And when I know I'm in far enough is when the minnow starts to touch my fingers right there. When I see that, I go ahead, I pull that hook point out of the minnow's back, just like that. I grab it like this. I just start working that minnow around over the eye, and my goal is to get that minnow on there, you know, halfway straight. Straight as possible. Doesn't have to be perfect. Right there, that's a pretty straight minnow. Make sure here, yeah, it's looking good. Last thing is, I slide these bobber stops down until they almost touch the bead on the nose of the minnow, about like that. Let me slide the action disc down. So this is a perfectly rigged Trout Trix minnow. You troll this through the water at anywhere from 1.8 to 2.2 miles an hour. That's kind of the sweet spot. You can troll them slower, you can troll them faster, but that's the sweet spot for me. What you're going to get is a very, very good minnow imitation swimming very erratically. Looks like a minnow, swims like a minnow. When they grab it, again, it feels like a minnow. And in terms of the trout, a trout can swim about 12 miles an hour. When this is moving through the strike zone at 2 miles an hour, it's like it's standing still, but it's putting off a lot of vibration. It's struggling. It looks like a minnow in distress, and it flat out, prompts that feeding response from predatory fish. It's a great brown trout bait. It's a great rainbow trout bait, and I catch my share of king salmon on it as well as some bass. So it's just a winner. If the fish are feeding on bait fish, it is an absolutely killer presentation. Now, I rig it that way probably 80% of the time. Now, if I'm in a situation where maybe the water's cold, maybe the water's stained, maybe I just think a set of flashers would give me an edge. You can reach for the cowbells, the Ford fenders, the old school flashers, the Vance's flashers, the Mylar Max Lure flashers, but I prefer my turbo flasher. I design these for maximum vibration with minimal drag. They exhibit almost no drag. They put off a lot of flash, a lot of vibration, and I'm simply going to insert that between my trolling swivel right there and my leader. I'm going to take the swivel on the top of the turbo. I'm going to snap it on that trolling swivel. I'm going to reverse it. I'm going to take the snap swivel on the back of that turbo. I'm going to hook my Trix leader on there like so. Now I have all the benefits of a flasher drawn in the fish, and I have the minnow working behind it. This is the business card. This is the free meal. This draws them within range to see the minnow, and then it's game on. Then it's fish on. You're smiling. The trout, not so much. Now, you can also fish these with a dodger, but if you're going to use a dodger, let me get this one out of the way. If you're going to use a dodger, you can't really use the action disc, and you don't need to. The pull of the action disc will actually kind of kill the swimming action of the dodger. Let me show you how to rig one behind a dodger. I'll just set this guy right over here like that. I have another rod right here. These rods are actually rigged and ready to go to the Sierras. I'm getting ready to take a fishing trip. Let me pop this off here. I have a pink minnow on this one. So what I've got going on here, let me pull a little line. Same deal. I've got my main line. Set that there. I've got my main line coming down to the old bead and trolling swivel right there. I've added a dodger, in this case a 4-inch fisheye dodger with some pink tape on it. And behind it, I've put an 8-pound test fluorocarbon leader. I've tipped it with a number 4 Sproat hook, and I've put a minnow on it the same way I put on the other rig. I've threaded it on, brought it out through the back. But there's no beads, no bobber stops, no action disc. The thing to remember is you want that minnow 2 to 3 Dodger links behind the blade. Just like I was saying with the flasher. This is the business card. This is the free meal. Big open water lakes like Shasta, Folsom, you know, a lot of deep water. Maybe you're targeting trout 60 feet down over 200 or 300 feet of water. It makes sense to put a Dodger in the water because it puts off the same impulses and the same flash as feeding trout. Fish in big impoundments, rainbow trout in big impoundments, most of the time are feeding on some sort of bait fish. So they hear a trout, what they believe is a trout feeding. They come in, they start seeing the flashes that looks like another trout feeding. They think they're feeding on minnows, and they see a minnow, and what happens next? They grab the minnow feels real, they gulp it inside their mouth, and again, you're a happy angler because you got a fish on the end of your line, and the trout, well, not so much. You thought he was grabbing a minnow, but now he's got a Sproat hook embedded in usually in his lower jaw, and he's not getting away. If you're the kind of guy, kind of angler, that likes to use scent, the soft plastics hold scent real well. So don't hesitate to put some Procure, you know, some trophy trout, some threadfin shad, whatever your favorite is, on your Trix worms, on your Trix minnows. That hold scent very well, and it just makes the presentation that much better. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Soft plastics are the new frontier of trout trolling. Not because I designed them, not because I sell them. These are, this right here, the Trout Trix minnow and the Trout Trix worms, they are 2 of the very best baits I've ever trolled. They flat out work. I don't BS you guys. Give them a try. You're gonna agree with me. You know, jump on board to the soft plastic revolution. They're changing the way I think about trout trolling. They will change the way you think about trout trolling. Hands down, some of the most effective baits you could put on the end of your line. That's enough for now, guys. I am out of here. I hope that clears up how to rig the Trout Trix minnows. I'll catch you next time right here on YouTube. Hopefully I'm going to go up into the Sierras and nail some fish on these minnows very shortly. Anyhow, you have a great day, and I'll catch you right here on YouTube. Thanks for all the support. Thanks for watching all our videos, and thank you for patronizing our store. Without you, we couldn't do what we do. Thanks a ton, guys.